right, welcome back to NostalgiaCast. I'm Johnny Craddock,
And I'm Darren Lundberg.
and today is a special Halloween episode, Darren, because we're going to talk about Beetlejuice.
Ooh,
Not
spooky.
maybe we'll get into Beetlejuice, but let's do Beetlejuice. 1988, directed by Tim Burton, starring Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, Winona Ryder, Geena Davis, Alec Baldwin, Catherine O'Hara, and Jeffrey Jones, and a cameo from Dick Cavett.
Yep.
He's in
Who's
for a brief
short?
period.
He's really short.
Yeah. Okay, so Beetlejuice, 1988. I picked it mainly because I always knew I wanted to pick this movie for a Halloween episode, and when we decided to take a break between the 70s season and the second volume of our 90s Palooza before that starts up, I thought it'd be great if we just could talk about Beetlejuice for a second, just quickly,
Yeah.
because it was a big movie in my life growing up. So that's why I picked it. But however, my memory of it is it was just always on TV. I don't remember
Hmm.
like renting it. I don't remember going to the theater. I just remember seeing it on TV all the time. Like it was always something that was available and something that we could watch. And when I first saw it, it was kind of jarring for some reason. I don't know why. I remember thinking like I didn't quite like a lot of the things that I was seeing. I remember feeling like I liked the Beetlejuice character, but I didn't really know why. I was younger,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Right.
there was something that kind of left me feeling kind of weird after it was over. Each time I'd watch it, I always felt kind of weird. Like, what was that? Why do I feel this way about this movie?
Hmm.
But as the years went on, the more I watched it, the more I liked it. The more I kind of was more nostalgic for it, I guess you would say. But yeah, definitely memorable. I think Michael Keaton's performance as Beetlejuice is the one thing that draws me to it. Each time I watch this movie, I'm enamored by what he does. I love watching him play this character. Um, but we can talk more about that kind of stuff later. But like I say, at first I remember like not really liking it that well, and then the more I watched, the more I liked it.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, I think I saw it on video. I remember, the thing I mainly remember is they used to have a channel, I think, called Movie Time, where they would play, it was just movie related stuff. It became E! Entertainment later on. But they'd have these, like, I think Talk Soup was on during that time, but they would have, I think, Coming Attractions, half-hour program where we would just show trailers. And how
Yeah,
nerdy is that we love just watching trailers, right?
I loved that. Yeah, I loved it.
And I'd record them on VHS and just watch them over and over again. And I think Beetlejuice was one that I remember watching constantly, and so it had been on my radar. And this is obviously before Batman, like which we talked about, obviously, but before Tim Burton became a thing. I think Beetlejuice, when you watch it the first time, it announces him as a filmmaker just very firmly, very strongly. And so I remember it being effective. That my main memory of watching Beetlejuice on VHS is, yeah, it gives you the sense of something's off. Like it shows you that camera going over the model, which you think is a real town, but then you see the spider come up over their
Mhm.
house. Oh, so it throws you off. So you're kind of off kilter, and then it settles into the normalcy of Adam and Barbara trying to redo their house. They're talking about the kind of wallpaper and the coloring they're going to use. They go out to the town, all that stuff, and then it does that weird, funny thing where the dog, the most wholesome of all animals, literally kills them. And then they wander into the house, and there's just this feeling of eeriness and unease that kind of, you're with Adam and Barbara. You slowly realize that maybe they're dead, right? That they didn't survive that. And then when the Dietzes come in, I just remember being shocked because you see Barbara hanging in the closet when Otho and is it Dealey? Yeah, Dealey open and they scream, and it's just Barbara hanging, and she rips off her face, and her eyeballs come out, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this rated? It's like PG." And then they move her aside, and then they go into the next room, and then it's Barbara. She decapitated Adam, and she's standing there with the knife. I'm like, "What rating is this? How is it getting away with this stuff?" It was so horrifically done. But then you see Adam like, "Barbara, this isn't working out at all." So it's kind of funny. So it kind of takes the edge off. I just remember those horrific images. Like, why is this in a PG rated movie?
Yeah.
I just thought that was fun. So that's and then you get addicted to Tim Burton and stuff like that. And we'll get into it. I think I've gone back and forth, maybe Ed Wood being his best, Big Fish being his best, but I think Beetlejuice, if you're looking for the most Tim Burton movie, I think this is the one. It's before his style became a joke, you know what I mean? Where it started satirizing itself, where you can just tell
Yeah.
it's very unique, and it
Yeah.
tells a story that's off kilter, that doesn't We talked about it in Batman. Batman's kind of a dull, two-dimensional story, and I think this one has a little more spikiness to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, yeah, first of all, real quick, you mentioned them going into town to get some stuff for the fixing up their house for their in-home vacation, as they called
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
one thing that I always liked growing up with this movie is the old man, the barber, the old man sitting in front of the barber shop, just just talking to himself. It always makes me laugh.
Yeah,
And even tonight when I watched it again, I was like, "Oh yeah, this guy's
right.
great." So I was anyway. I wanted to mention because I love that moment in the movie. Um, so we want to talk about Tim Burton,
Yeah,
obviously, and you did kind of mention that he definitely announced himself as a filmmaker. He has a definite style.
yeah,
It's kind of that, steampunk before steampunk was a thing. Um, and I would say I think, Pee-wee's Big Adventure is another good one that kind of like,
right,
solidifies who he is. I think also Edward Scissorhands does that. I think a lot of these movies, you know right away when you see it, it's a Tim Burton movie.
right.
Um, However, we've also talked about filmmakers who can adapt and kind of do any genre and any style. Like I think when we talk about Rob Reiner, he can do any genre. He can do any movie, whether it's a comedy or a drama or a horror or a feel good movie. He can do all those. And yeah, I feel like Tim Burton is one note. Like he's got his style, and that's what he sticks with. And you kind of get, for me, I get a little bored. I go, okay, I get your Tim Burton, and I get you have this like distinctive style, but you do anything else? Is there anything else you can do? Like what's your next movie gonna be? The same thing I just watched? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel.
Hmm.
How do you feel about Tim Burton?
It might be a catch-22 because I think Big Fish is a little more bright and it does have like the circusy stuff and the off-kill. So Big Fish is still a Tim Burton movie, but it's done in the light of day. I don't know if that makes any sense. Where it's a lot brighter and it's a lot happier. But at the end of the day, like when I think of Big Fish, like I like it and it's emotional, but it's kind of dull. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't stick with me in my brain. Like Beetlejuice sticks with me, Batman sticks with me, Edward Scissorhands sticks with me. Sleepy Hollow, a lot of that. I really enjoyed for the first two thirds. I really enjoyed Sleepy Hollow. So all this, and you're right, like he's very one note. And so you see like Wednesday that's just out on Netflix, and you hear that he did that. And you're like, oh, that's very Tim Burton, right? So it
Yeah, very
it just
basic. Yeah.
seems. Yeah, it seems natural. So again, that's what I mean. He kind of becomes a joke. Like it's so one note that when he does his style or he brings back Depp or stuff like that, it's like, yeah, or Elfman. We've
Yeah.
seen this before. You're just giving us the same note again and again. And even though something like Sweeney Todd is a little bit different because that's a musical, and it's maybe Sweeney Todd's up there too with a Tim Burton movie that's at least it's the same, but it's different enough in like what it's trying to say. The violence in it is really funny. Obviously, it's over the
Yeah.
top kind of. But anyway, you can name all these movies, and you can tell it's a Tim Burton movie.
Yep.
Watching, I don't know how you felt. Like we talked a little bit off air. Like I wasn't gonna watch Beetlejuice because I've seen this so many times. I think we mentioned it in the T2 episode that I have that movie memorized in my head, so I don't really need to watch it. But I had 2 hours to spare. I was like, this is a 90-minute movie. I might as well put it on. Michael Keaton makes me laugh, right?
Yeah.
A couple of things. When you watch it as an adult, Beetlejuice is a full-on creep. Like when I watched it as a kid, the third memory after the eeriness and after the R-rated PG scares, PG R-rated scares anyway, is I really loved Beetlejuice. I loved him so much as a kid that when he's defeated at the end, I kind of felt like, oh, like disappointed, like he didn't win, which is a
Yeah.
weird thing because you watch it now and like he's a pervert. Right, he sexually assaults Barbara multiple times.
Yeah.
He's trying to marry Lydia, who's an underage. She's a child bride, right? He's obviously horny. Like they create that brothel that he obviously what he's doing. He's a really loathsome, creepy character. Nobody likes him, and I think I love Michael Keaton, don't get me wrong. I love him in this. He's got great comedic chops, and
Yeah.
every line he gives it such energy that I think the problem is Keaton is so good that he makes you like this loathsome, deplorable character.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
I
do you
can see
think?
that. Well, I agree with that. Yeah, I think you're right. He's a bad guy, but it's done in a way that it's endearing. It makes you laugh, and like you say, you want to root for him, and you find yourself rooting for this character. But yeah, Michael Keaton, man, he nails it in this. And here's the thing: like I mentioned in our Batman episode, that I felt like there was a moment in that movie where he says, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." He morphs into Beetlejuice, and it's like he can't not.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice because he was so good in it. But anyway, yeah, I think top-notch performance, just great job.
Yeah, Dogberry, he kind of becomes Beetlejuice too, for Much
Yep,
Ado
I would
About
agree with that
Nothing,
too.
right?
Yep.
That seems to be his comedic kind of fallback, which is fine. He's enjoyable, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's funny. I watched some retrospective videos on Beetlejuice today, and each one of them was like, "Yeah, Beetlejuice is a creep. He's like he's a pervert, like he's an like a molester." But I like him. It's like what? Like everybody said that. It's like what? Why? Like you wouldn't say that about somebody in real life. And again, I think that's just because Keaton is so likable and brings such
Yeah.
energy to it that the movie
Well,
comes alive when he's
maybe
on.
that's part of why I always felt so weird after watching this movie when I was a kid, because it was, not, fun stuff to be, not a fun subject matter. So maybe
Yeah,
that's why I always kind of felt, what
yeah,
did I just
yeah.
watch? But yeah.
And so the other thing that I noticed watching it tonight too is I don't know. I don't know if I like Tim Burton as a filmmaker.
Really?
Uh, like Beetlejuice is great. Like it's a bottled world, right? It's very imaginative. The sets are great. Like everybody's in, and it has I guess again, a voice, right? But every movie's the same. It's the same kind of like little closeted idiosyncratic world. Batman's included in that, where it's not reality. And you recognize something, there's some humanity that pops in this movie, but as a nice bottled experience, I think it's great. But
Mhm.
past that, it fizzles. Like every Tim Burton movie seems to fizzle in my mind. And I don't know if that's because he doesn't, like, again, he's a great aesthetician. You know what I mean? He's a great
Yeah.
stylist and a world
Yeah.
builder, but I don't know if he knows how to connect those into a coherent story. I think what works in Beetlejuice and what works in Batman Returns is that they're so kooky that their climaxes are just as nonsensical as the middle of the movie or the beginning of the movie. And you just have to accept what's going on. There's no clear. So, like, Sleepy Hollow ends with, like, again, great atmosphere. It's trying to be one of these Hammer horror movies. It's got like a nice humor to it. I think Depp's really good and really funny. But then in the end, the Miranda Richardson character has a monologue. Like literally, she monologues for 5 minutes about how she created the Horseman, and it kills the momentum and the suspense in the movie. So you're not afraid of the Horseman anymore because you give him a
Yeah.
reason. You're Michael Myersing him, and so it loses me. Edward Scissorhands is like the inverse of Beetlejuice. It's this great closeted world. It's like instead of introducing the normal Barbara and Adam into the weird world of the afterlife, it's kind of the opposite. You're taking the weird Edward and you're introducing him to the normal world. It's actually kind of Blue Velvet-ish, where it's
Yeah.
normal on
Yeah.
the surface and stuff. So it's very fairy tale-ish, but in the end, he can't resist, number one, turning it into an action movie with the Anthony Michael Hall character. There's a whole thing where they have a fight in the castle and Edward stabs him to death. It's like this, tonally, this doesn't match the rest of the movie. It seems like you didn't know how to end this movie, so you just thought, let's end with a violent climax because that'll get people interested. And then the whole movie is about appearances. Don't trust appearances. It's about the heart. Like Edward is scary looking, right? But he's got a heart. So it's about looking past appearances. And literally, the Winona Ryder character, as the grandma, she's talking to her grandchild, and she says, "I don't want." Like the child says, "Why don't you go see him again?" And she says, "I don't want him to see me again because I want him to remember me how I was." And it's like, well, that just negates the whole point of the story
Yeah.
that you're just told, right?
Yeah.
And Batman Returns, again, it just ends. Like, it just goes and goes and it just ends. Beetlejuice is the same way. How does Barbara get the sandworm to attack the house? It's like I was watching it tonight and I was nitpicking stuff, and Elizabeth every now and then she'd go, I don't think you're supposed to try to make sense of
Yeah.
it. It's so weird. But it's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could use other examples, but he just tends to lose the story thread. And I don't know. So again, sorry, I'm talking so much, but the way that they use the Harry Belafonte songs in this, right? It was an interesting watch because Adam uses it in the beginning. You can hear Harry
Yeah.
Belafonte singing. There's this whole thing how Tim Burton's like racist, doesn't feature any black characters, heavily in his movies, but he's using Harry Belafonte. I'm not sure if that's a form of cultural appropriation, where Adam is listening to a black calypso song, a black singer, and they get the other characters to listen to him. So I don't know. Here's the thing with Burton. I don't know if he did that on purpose because the Deo song, it was like a Jamaican song that was made in the 1900s about banana boat workers. They would sing this as they worked, right? So I don't know if they're making a comment on the ghosts or whatever being slaves, or the Dietzes being like so entitled that they don't bother thinking about race or stuff outside their circle, or if it's just he liked the music and he used the music. You know what I mean? He's very vague. Like he doesn't. His Planet of the Apes commentary, I tried to watch that because I could not make heads or tails of the ending to that movie. And I wanted to listen to his commentary. And the whole last 5 minutes, he's like, well, it makes sense if you think about it making sense. And if you look at it this way, then it makes sense in a way. And I'm like, you're just talking nonsense. I don't think you know what you were doing. So that's what I mean. Like they fizzle because they're interesting, but there's no grander statement than that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know if it was a racist thing. Maybe he does just like the songs. Maybe
Yeah.
he does just think, this would be a great song for this moment in the movie. And then to use multiple songs from the same singer, I think works because it kind of ties it together.
Yeah.
So I think for the most part that works. And I really like those scenes. I like when they get possessed and they sing Deo, and she at the end sings, what's the other ones at the end?
Jump in line.
Yep, Age of Line.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like those moments in the movie. I think they work really well, and it's memorable. It makes you kind of feel good in that moment, And those are fun scenes. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's anything racist.
I don't know if either. I like Harry Belafonte's, like, I like the music. Like, I listened to the songs over and over again when I was a kid. So I don't know if that's not me being racist. I don't know. I never thought of it that way. I just like the songs. It
Yeah,
reminded me of Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs, how a lot of Japanese critics were criticizing that movie because, oh, it's like culturally appropriating the Japanese culture. And I watched that movie going, I just think it's cool to look at. Like being Asian, I like that whole aesthetic. Like,
when
why is it
yeah,
racist if you want to use something that you like?
when I married my wife, she had all kinds of Japanese memorabilia and stuff, and she hung it on our walls. And it was like, we're not Japanese, but yeah, I wasn't like, so I didn't care one bit. It was like she likes it, she wants to decorate with it, great. And you're
Yeah,
like, whatever. That means, but
right.
anyway,
It's a
also I
wider
think,
topic, you know what I mean? We
yeah,
we can't we talk about this all the time. We can't be two white cis
yeah,
guys talking
I,
about like race and culture. Maybe it is cultural appropriation to listen, but I don't know. I thought Harry Belafonte sings very catchy songs.
I think sometimes too, as a filmmaker, when you're looking for the right song for the scene and for the moment, sometimes you just land on a certain song and you go, "This is the one. This one works."
Right.
Doesn't
But
matter who wrote it,
that's
who's.
what I mean though. It's like he's not another director like a Spielberg or a Fellini or a Hitchcock or a Kurosawa or all these other filmmakers or Kubrick that we're so familiar with will be using these things for a reason to comment on something. And that's what I mean about
Yeah,
Burton. He's just doing it because it looks cool or it feels good in the moment. There's no
yeah,
wider context for it. And that's why they don't last in my mind.
yeah. Well, I think he's definitely a good filmmaker overall. I think like we talked about, he has a style. He's very,
Recognizable.
yeah, yeah, recognizable. When you see his movie, you know it's his. And so for that, I think he deserves some, credit.
And there are movies I enjoy. It's just sometimes
Yeah.
you watch a movie and you're like, Dark Shadows, like I don't need this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Um, if I had to pick a favorite, I would probably say Ed Wood, only because I'm a big fan of movies about movies. So, I mean,
yeah,
Ed Wood kills it. Anyway, okay, so let's move on to the acting. We talked a little bit about Michael Keaton already, and I think we both agree he did a great job as this character.
maybe
And
too good a job.
I never get tired of watching him be this guy. I never get
Yeah,
tired of it. I can watch it. Those scenes are the best parts of the movie. Like when he's not on screen, I kind of lose interest a little bit. I still like it, but when he's on screen, it just grabs my attention, and I can't wait. I can't get enough of it.
yeah.
Anyway, what about the other characters? What about the Maitlands, Alec Baldwin and Geena Davis?
They're the straight men, right? They're the straight arrow, the normal characters. So I don't know if they add a lot to it. They sell, like Geena Davis sells the exasperation of losing her house and all the work she's put in. I think they're good as a couple. I think they have good chemistry. I don't think Alec Baldwin has a moment where he's super funny or shows the edge that he would show later on, or his promises, and he's fine. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's not really a lot you can say about him. I don't mean to be disrespectful to him, but they're required to play a certain part, and they play it well. I
Yeah,
think it's great. They have
I
good
agree with
chemistry.
that. I agree with that. What about Winona Ryder? She was very young when she made this movie, like 15 or 16, I think.
Yeah, she's always been a star. Like Heather's, I think they cast her off of that. And she's got a very good presence. I just thought it was funny, like the emo depression. It's a more of a fashion statement that she puts on instead of you don't really feel it. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
again, because it's Tim Burton, he doesn't delve that deep. It's just kind of a facet of her personality.
Yeah.
But she's fine, and she shows the when she gets scared that the Beetlejuice snake comes out and attacks her parents, and she gets frustrated, stuff like that. And she's funny when she's writing her suicide note. But again, that's the thing when she's writing a suicide note, and I don't feel anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
just it's an aesthetic. It's a funny moment
Right.
that you're so it's just
Yeah.
interesting.
And I
What do you
do
think?
laugh at that moment. It is
Yeah,
kind of funny.
right.
Okay, so the other actress in the movie that is actually a character and actually delivers a performance, I think, is Catherine O'Hara.
Oh,
I
she's
mean,
great.
she comes on screen just and she just blows the doors off. She just like I thought she was great. As a kid, I didn't like that character. I was like just being annoyed by the character. But as an adult, I'm like, that's a good performance.
Mhm.
Like that's good acting right there. So Keaton and O'Hara are the ones that for me make
Yeah.
them.
Absolutely. Everybody else is just kind of normal doing their thing and required to do a certain thing. Catherine O'Hara as Tila, there when she freaks out, like I will go insane and I will take you with me. I thought that was funny. It's like maybe a meta commentary on on a director. I need to make this thing my own, right? I just
Yeah.
can't walk in and be somebody else. What I really liked, and I've noticed it more and more, is that yeah, she's kind of up and down and she's very emotional and she's got this terrible art and stuff like that, but she has these moments where I can, and I maybe I'm reading it wrong, but to me, I read that she really, what's the husband's name? I forget his Jeffrey
Charles.
Charles. She really loves him. When they're at the dinner table and she's trying to keep it going and she can't. She gives him like a look, and he goes, "I'd like to raise a toast." And she like, you can tell in her eye, she registers like, "Oh, he's helping me out," right?
Yeah.
She has, or with the part where they're on the patio or whatever, and he's like, "Maybe this is a bad idea," and she's like, "Let's face it, Charles, you've never had a bad idea," and she gets all demure, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh," she has these moments where she just feels warm and you can tell that she really loves this guy. And so
Yeah.
it's not just when you're a kid, it seems like a very shrill, unlikable performance, but there's a
Mhm.
vulnerability to Delia. I think like when Dick Cavett like disses her or whatever, like, well, even I'm like, her art may be terrible, but she's trying. Like she's at least
Yeah.
putting herself out there, right? It's like, don't
Yeah.
yell at her. You know what I mean?
I love that moment where she's like, "Be careful with that sculpture. It's my sculpture. I mean, I made it." It's like
Yeah.
tosses it on the table.
Or
I
she's
was,
running around outside screaming at everybody because yeah.
yeah,
So
it's
again,
so
she's
funny.
great. She's just got these very human, even Otho, Glenn Shaddix. I love that moment where they're doing the seance or the exorcism at the end, and Charles is like,
Mhm.
can you stop this? Let's stop
Yeah,
this." And Otho's like, his facade leaves him. And he's like, "I'm sorry, Charles, I can't, like, I
yeah,
don't."
yeah.
And so I like that. Even Beetlejuice, even Keaton has one moment. I don't know if you caught it. Like he's all for show, but there's the part where he's talking to Lydia and he's like, "I got to get out." And she's like, "I just want in." And he pauses and he goes, "Why?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That seems just very human. It's like, why would you want to do this? Like you're out there, but then he changes and he becomes a creep again because he knows he can
Yeah.
manipulate her, right?
Right,
That's what.
right.
But there's every character has these little human moments. I don't know, I don't know if we want to talk of the Jeffrey Jones of it all because again, he was popular in Ferris Bueller, Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
He showed up in all these Amadeus. He was in
Mhm.
obviously Sleepy Hollow, but he
Yep.
has a little bit of a torrid history in the 2000s
Well, I don't
where
know what happened. I know there's a reason why he's not in the second one, but I don't know what happened. So maybe you
he
can.
was found he had pictures of young boys on his computer.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I just think it's funny that they kicked Jeffrey Jones out of the sequel because he's a real life pedophile, but they're okay having this pedophile Beetlejuice character be the whole focal point of their sequel movie and of their. I just think that was maybe there's a little bit of irony there that maybe they're not
Yeah,
Warner Brothers is picking up on.
yeah. Is there anybody else as far as the acting goes you want to talk about, or is there anybody else worth mentioning? Like I think.
Robert Goulet says putz, pretty funny. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. Okay.
Well, the only other characters I can think of are the production design and Danny Elfman's music that have
Yeah.
characters all their own. Again, there are moments of the score that are just Batman. Like he would use the part where Adam and Barbara are outrunning the sandworm is Batman music.
Mhm.
Taken almost exactly ported over exactly to that movie. Or I
Or
love the
Simpson.
Beetlejuice theme. Yeah. I love the Beetlejuice theme, but it's like it just sounds like Danny Elfman. Just
Yeah.
like Tim Burton, you can tell. Danny Elfman's best score, I think, is Midnight Run because it sounds nothing like Danny Elfman, and it's a great,
Yeah,
fun score.
yeah.
But again, that's the thing. If you're going to hire Danny Elfman, you want to get him to do the Danny Elfman thing. And so,
Right. And I think he's good at what he does. But my critique, my one problem with the score is there's just too much of it. Like I
yeah,
just want some moments where there's not constant score. And I didn't really notice it as a kid. But then just this last time watching it, I was like, wait a minute, the music never stops. Like, why is the music like taking a break for a second? There's never a moment where maybe a few moments, but not very many, where it just kind of like settles down. There's no underscore.
right.
So that was my only problem with it. Because I like the theme. I like the feel that it creates. I just want a little less of it is all I want.
Yeah. I like how he incorporates the Belafonte songs into the score too.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
those are great. The soundtrack songs are great.
Right. So obviously, like the production design, I think Burton wanted Anton first, but he was off of In the Company of Wolves, Neil Jordan's movie, werewolf movie. I think he wanted him, but he was unavailable, so he went with Bo Welch, who I thought it was interesting. Catherine O'Hara met Bo Welch on set of this, and they ended up getting married. I thought that was really cool
Oh, really?
as a story. But Bo Welch, he would go on to do Batman Returns after First had passed away. But again, behind me, you see like the German expressionists. That the scene where they're at the bureaucracy of the afterlife. Does the office have a name? I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, anyway, so we'll just call it the bureau, the office, main office, right? But it's very cabinet of Dr. Caligari, like especially the image that I've got as my background here. The other thing too with Tim Burton that's really interesting is he loves the Gothic, the German expressionist type feel. And again, German expressionist is all the weird angles, it's all the shadows, it's all the
Hmm.
optical effects. And again, it started in Germany because they were after the fallout and they lost World War One. The people were trying to deal with that, and so German expressionism was a way to kind of rebel against formalist, like authoritative, conformist ideals, and so that's why everything is skewed and it's a different perspective, and it's a rebellion against those things, which is interesting because Tim Burton always focuses on the outsider or the outlier and how society is trying to make them normal. I mean, that's in Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands. It's in Batman, for crying out loud. Like it's
Yeah.
all over his movies. That's all he ever wants to make. But I just like reading up on German expressionism. I think that is Tim Burton. Like that's a obvious style, but it's like out of 30 movies, every movie is a German expressionist movie. It's like I need something different. Again, it's so strange. I don't know how you feel. Like we talk about Ed Wood maybe being the favorite of Batman Returns or Scissorhands, stuff like that. When I think of Tim Burton, I think and this is maybe a sign, his best movie is the movie that he didn't direct. His best movie is the one that he came up with the ideas and he produced. I think Nightmare Before Christmas
Yeah.
is the ultimate Tim Burton movie because it has the style, but Henry Selick is able to, and Caroline Thompson, I think, wrote the screenplay, but they're able to focus that and make it Nightmare Before Christmas feels like an actual complete story from beginning to end. It's the most complete, most fulfilling of anything Tim Burton's got his name on. I don't know. When I look at the stuff, I'm like, yeah, I think Nightmare is the best Tim Burton associated project. I don't know.
Yeah, my family loves that one. My wife and kids love that movie. It's like it's a staple at our house. They watch it every year on Halloween. So we'll be watching it soon, I'm sure.
Right, right. When I was working at Suncoast, because it's a Christmas slash Halloween movie, we played it from Halloween through Christmas. And so there was a
Oh.
stretch where I hated Nightmare Before Christmas. If I hear that stupid song one more time, man, I'm going to freak out, man. I'm going to freak out. And when I left Suncoast, and it was years later, and then one day I just happened to watch it again. I'm like, oh yeah, this movie's great. So it got me back. But
Yeah.
I I feel bad saying that, but yeah,
Yeah.
my favorite.
Well, when I think about Beetlejuice, I have fond memories of it, and even more so now as an adult. I like it more and more the more I watch it.
It's interesting,
However, yeah, they did make a sequel, and it
really.
took years to to come to fruition, but they
36 years?
6 years.
Holy crap. It
Yeah,
was Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian at one point. Like they were
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
get the ball
There
rolling.
were several iterations of the script and several different rewrites, and yeah. So, did you see the Beetlejuice, or no?
Here's the thing. I know we've talked about it before. Like I love being able to rewatch 70s movies and recapture that feeling. I don't need to see Beetlejuice. I think the thing with Beetlejuice is it's such a good closeted world. I don't need to know anything beyond what I just saw. And so the idea of a sequel is just boring to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it could be great. Like, what did you think of the movie?
Well, I remember being excited about seeing it when I saw the trailer. I thought, oh, that'd be fun to watch sequel to that movie. And then when it came out, I was just like, I'll wait a little while longer. I'll wait a little while longer. And then finally, a couple months after it came out, I was like, all right, I'll go see it because my kids are going to see something else that I didn't really care about seeing. So while they went to watch the animated movie,
Hmm.
I went to go see Beetlejuice. And I came out so disappointed, like so mad that I spent money. I was like, why did I waste my time and money on that movie? Like,
Hmm.
there's no, I don't think there's one redeeming quality.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice is still good and he's still funny in some moments, but it doesn't even come close to doing what the first one did.
Oh. Well,
So,
originally I wanted to gear this conversation because I wasn't going to watch it. I'm sorry, everybody. Like I was like, I don't have time. Like I don't. That's not something I'm going to make time for because I don't need it. Right. So
right.
originally I was gonna when I knew that you were watching, I was well, let me ask you questions to see if you can sway me to watch it. But now that I know what you think of it,
Yeah.
it's kind of a
Well,
moot
no,
point.
I'll tell you not to watch it. Don't waste your time.
But let
But
me
what other
ask you.
questions do you want to ask though?
Yeah, these are basically worst scenario questions. If you answer positively to these things, and it's like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna. It's gonna go further down the watch list. So
Yeah, yeah.
let me ask just two basic questions. One has to do with two characters, and the maybe it's a set of questions that has to do with Beetlejuice. Number one,
Okay.
do they explain what happened to Adam and Barbara?
No, I don't think they do.
Interesting.
I don't remember them.
There's no
Yeah,
line or anything,
maybe there is. I don't remember.
but not particularly memorable, right?
Yeah, I don't remember what they say about them.
Okay. Well, I guess they're beside the point. So my main focus is again, we talked about Beetlejuice being a creep, and we talked about Michael Keaton kind of selling him when he shouldn't have sold him, maybe.
Mhm.
And I don't think Beetlejuice would have been as successful without Michael Keaton in it. But let me ask you three questions. This is something that I watching the movie again. I was like, I don't want if this happens, I don't want to watch the movie.
Okay.
Number one, do they humanize Beetlejuice?
I would say yes. They
Ugh,
do give him a backstory, and
okay.
there's a whole thing with his ex-wife who's out to get him or out for revenge or something.
That was my next question. The finger that he pulls out and in the movie in the original and says to Lydia she meant nothing to me, nothing at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the finger of the ex-wife?
Um, I believe so. There's a scene where a bunch of body parts are sewn together, and she kind
Okay.
of like Frankenstein's herself back into being. And I think there's a moment where she puts the finger on at the last second. I
Okay.
think.
All right. And then my
I
last
did go to the
question.
bathroom once or twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question is, do they show any of Beetlejuice during the Black Plague?
Oh, I can't remember that. I don't know. Do they?
Are there any flashbacks to Beetlejuice as a normal person?
Oh crap! I can't answer that question. I can't remember.
Oh wow. So
I
it's not
mean,
even memorable
maybe,
from that point.
maybe they did. I don't remember. I might have missed that scene. I don't know now.
Okay.
Did they? Do you know? Do you know?
I
I did.
don't know. That's here's the thing is like we're talking about Star Wars Rogue One. It's like there's one throwaway line where Mon Mothma, I can't believe I know that name. Anyway, says many people died fighting us the secret to the Death Star. And because of that one line, somebody was like, let's make a movie out of that. And it's like, or in why is Star Wars all the example? Star Wars Han Solo, that movie, how, oh, let's explain the Kessel Run. It's like, I don't want that. Like,
Well, now,
why do you think I need that?
but now I feel bad because I can't remember. I mean, they probably did. I don't know. I honestly can't remember.
Well, that's the thing. If you can't remember it, that's bad. Like if I can't remember a movie, even a movie that I don't like I'll remember every scene in a Zack Snyder movie, right? But
Yeah,
if something fizzles out and I can't remember it when I walk out of a screening,
yeah. Or a Tarantino movie. I don't forget
yeah.
those.
But basically, what you're saying is they do humanize
They
Beetlejuice.
do. Yeah. And there's a
Ugh,
backstory. Yeah.
okay, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I like the Sylvia Sidney character. Oh, that's the only other thing. How are the gags in Beetlejuice? Just to bring it back, the gags with the dead people in that waiting room,
Yeah.
so funny. They have such a good sense of humor about themselves.
Yeah.
The Sylvia Sidney character, when she smokes just nonchalantly and it starts coming out through her open throat, I'm like, what a
Yeah.
great effect. That's
I
so
always like that.
funny.
Yeah.
There's so many good gags. Does
Yeah.
Beetlejuice have any great gags like
The only
that?
thing I can think of is they try to explain away Jeffrey Jones's absence by shark attack, like, and he's got like his head's cut off with the bite of a shark. So like he's missing his head, but he's walking around with this like blood spurting out, and he
Really? Like
tries
they
to
showed
talk.
Jeffrey Jones?
No, it's just an actor in a suit, I
Okay.
imagine, with there's no head. It's like a headless body with a shark bite in
Okay.
the collar with blood spurting out, and he tries to talk, and it tries like this muddled talking. It's really weird. So that's how
Interesting.
they explain away Jeffrey Jones not being there, is he got eaten by a shark.
So again, let's write out the actual real life pedophile, but let's have a fun time making an entire movie around the fake, funny, dead pedophile.
Yeah,
What a
yeah,
strange choice. That's odd. Okay,
yeah.
so basically, Beetlejuice is not worth remembering.
Well, not for me anyway. Yeah, I mean, I didn't remember. I totally forget.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, not for me. It's forgettable. My wife was disappointed to hear that I didn't like it because she wanted to watch it, and I was like, "Well, you can watch it, but I'm not going to watch it with you."
Yeah, that's usually a sign of death. If I see something or I eat something before Elizabeth and I don't like it, she's like, "Oh, I guess I'm never trying it then."
Yeah. Yeah.
The joys of being a couple.
That's funny. All right, is there anything else you want to mention? The cinematography, anything else that we forgot, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's everything. Again, I'm sorry if I think Tim Burton, like his outside people, really connect to that. There are people that connect to that not feeling like you belong. That's a universal feeling, right?
Yeah,
But again, it's just a one. Is that all you've got for me? Like, I get that, but is that it? You know what I mean? Is it? Ed Wood kind of does it. It romanticizes like the whole. It's more of a. This is Tim Burton if he were to be in Ed Wood's shoes, right? That's why I like
yeah,
that movie. It's kind of a
yeah,
personal
yeah,
thing, but the transvestitism, the cross dressing thing, it's more again, it's more of a fashion statement as opposed to being a part of like Ed Wood, that was a part of who he was. But
yeah,
in Ed Wood the movie, it was more of a fashion thing or a comedy beat. Again, it's you can feel like an outsider, but what else have you got from me? I guess that's with me.
yeah.
The older I get, I'm further and further away from attaching myself to that
Well, I
idea.
feel very similarly to that. Like I said before, I think Tim Burton's he's got a strong style and look and vision, but it's the same vision in almost every movie that he does. I just want something different once in a while. But I still really, really enjoy Beetlejuice. I liked watching it again this last time. I still laugh out loud. I still love the character, and I love the aesthetics of the whole movie as a whole. I think it does a great job. And I don't really need to answer all those little whole plot holes and questions you might have. I can look past that. I can forgive it, and I can
Yeah,
have a good time, and I can walk away satisfied.
right. It's an experience.
Yeah.
Okay,
So if you want that, you're gonna get it. But
absolutely.
beware the second one. All right. Well, that's our little Halloween episode for NostalgiaCast, Beetlejuice. Um, for NostalgiaCast, I'm Johnny Craddock.
And I'm Darren Lundberg.
And let's see, it's showtime.
You like it?